Hello, everyone. Let's talk about something that might surprise you. What if your heart is actually older than you are? I'm not talking emotionally older, not talking about spiritually older, but what if I told you it could possibly be medically older? So today's topic is actually about what is your heart age? So recently they did a research that actually suggests that about 16% of women and nearly 26% of men may have a heart that is at least 10 years older than their actual age. So think about that for a moment. So if I told you that you are 45 years old, but your heart could actually be functioning more like a 55-year-old. And a surprising part that many people have absolutely no idea. So today on the beat with Priya, we are going to talk about what heart age really means, why heart disease often develops silently, how doctors identify cardiovascular risk, and the simple things that you can do today to protect your heart. But before we dive into that, I want to share something important. Well, usual medical disclaimer, right? Everything we discuss here today is meant to educate and empower you about your heart health, but it's not intended to diagnose or treat any or our specific medical condition. Please reach out to your personal doctor and give your medical condition and your family history so that they can go through it thoroughly with you with your health in mind. So whatever I say here is more generalized. It's for you and to educate you, and knowledge is always empowerment. So if something we talk about today resonates with you, I encourage you to take that information, have the conversation with your healthcare provider, because the best medical care always happens between you and your doctor. So now that we've said that, let's come back to the question that started this conversation. How old is your heart really? Welcome to On the Beat with Priya. Let's talk heart to heart. Why is this conversation matter? Heart disease is still the number one cause of death in the United States. It hasn't changed much since the first video that I put out. And globally, it remains the leading cause of death worldwide. Millions of people every year experience heart attack, stroke, heart failure, and other cardiovascular disease. But here's something many people don't realize. Well, heart disease does not suddenly appear overnight. It develops slowly, often very silently, sometimes over 10, 20, even 30 years. So that means someone can feel perfectly healthy while changes are quietly happening inside their arteries. Let me give you an example that happened in our office. We had a patient, um, HIPAA protection, can't name any more detail other than male or female. So female wife is the patient for new appointment coming in, doing her paperwork. She heads over to the front desk and she says, I think my husband's not feeling too well. Do you think you guys can help him? So now we're a bit confused. She is here for an appointment, but she's asking for help for her husband. So we ask, what do you need? He doesn't look too well. So then the front desk receptionist, our sweet Ellie, she comes over and she says, Priya, I need your help. Can you come help? And I walk over to the sweet gentleman. He's all sweaty and he doesn't look too comfortable. Immediately, I could spot the signs. I pick up the phone call and say, we need to call 911 right now. This poor gentleman has had hypertension, but never been diagnosed with anything else. He says that he's absolutely healthy. He's never had any symptoms other than today, as in being the day of the appointment for his wife. He brought his wife for an appointment. So we call 911, they do an EKG, they rush him to the hospital. Sadly, turns out to be a heart attack. Thankfully, Dr. Chandra was there and he made a few phone calls and was able to get there on time to help this gentleman. He was very lucky that it happened at our office and we were able to do something for him as quickly as we can. Without the help of the first responders, we could not have done that at all. And it goes to say that these things happen pretty often, and sometimes not everyone is lucky in a doctor's office. And when this happens, and this is why heart disease is the number one silent killer. So This is why prevention and awareness are so powerful. So please watch and please listen. We may not be lucky as he was every single time. And this is why this conversation today matters. So, what is heart age? Let's talk about the whole concept about heart age for a second. So, heart age is a way for the doctors to help people understand their true cardiovascular risk. So, doctors sometimes translate these numbers into something easier to understand. Your heart age. Your heart age is calculated based on several important factors, like what are they? Cholesterol, blood pressure, smoking history, diabetes, your weight, family history, how physically active are you per week, lifestyle habits. When these risk factors accumulate, meaning if you have more than one of these risk factors being an issue, they can actually make your heart function like someone much older. So, what do I mean by that? For example, if you're a 40-year-old smoker with high blood pressure, a high cholesterol, may have a heart closer to a 55 or a 60-year-old. And that difference in heart age increases your risk of severe events like heart attack, stroke, and blocked arteries. So the silent progression of heart disease is what brings us to something doctor often refers to as a cardiovascular risk continuum. This simply means that the cardiovascular disease tends to develop in sequence of stages. It often begins with common risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, smoking, obesity, sedentary lifestyle, meaning how much, like if you don't move at all or very little. Over time, these risk factors can lead to something called atherosclerosis. What does this mean? This is when a plaque slowly builds up inside those arteries. So the arteries, they get clogged up inside and the blood literally can't flow through and it restricts the blood flow and the heart has to work that much harder. What makes this process dangerous is that often happens with no symptoms until when someone finally may feel something, but still have significant plaque developing in their arteries. So now that we've identified these risk factors by just name, let's talk about factors that influence our heart health. Some of these you may actually know already. They could be incredibly important, like smoking. Smoking damages the lining of the blood vessel and it accelerates. So it actually speeds up your plaque buildup. It dramatically increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. That's why you should either think and give it a serious thought as to why you should quit smoking. I know smoking is not something that is easy to give up, but there are ways. Talk to your provider. They can help you with different ways and steps how you can actually reduce it from where you are today to quitting eventually. Smoking isn't just cigarettes, vaping is also considered smoking or chewing tobacco. Any product that actually contains nicotine has the same effect or bad effect on your arteries. So please give it a really strong thought as to quitting it today. If you are a smoker, please try. I'm sure your family will be thankful. You will be thankful. Even within a week, they say that you can see greater improvement in your blood pressure, in your ability to day-to-day lifestyle, changes in your vital signs. So give it a good thought. Talk to your primary care or your provider that helps you to help quit today. Diabetes is another one. Diabetes affects the vessels throughout the body. So the thing about sugar, it is delicious, but it is slow, and it raises to where diabetes becomes an effect on your blood vessels throughout the body. And high blood sugar damages the arteries and significantly increases cardiovascular risk. In fact, many physicians consider diabetes to be a cardiovascular risk equivalent. What does that mean? So if you might as well have heart disease and diabetes, it's the same, basically. High cholesterol, body definitely needs high cholesterol. There's no question about that. But when certain types of cholesterol becomes elevated, particularly LDL cholesterol, which is the one that accumulates these plaques within the arteries. High blood pressure places constant strain on your heart blood vessels, and this hypertension, as they call it, is what leads to this constant strain on your heart and all the blood vessels within the body. And over time, this can damage arteries and increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. So you can imagine a hose pipe is one of a really good example. So within your body, imagine the damage it could actually create. Physical inactivity, what does that basically mean? So in our modern lifestyle, a lot of sitting happens. I have to make myself aware how many steps that I actually get in a day. For me, my watch helps me. So I hope that you can do that too. But the heart is designed for movement. Regular physical activity strengthens the cardiovascular system. So pick a fun workout with your friend. Find a friend, someone who goes to workout. Maybe you'll make a new friend at the workout place too. Go regularly. Don't go from 0 to 60 as well. But definitely talk to your primary care doctor to find out how much exercise can you do with your current situation. Um, so, so once you confirm that you have these risk factors, advanced screening might be something that you want to consider. So I've scared you enough, and that wasn't the purpose. Again, knowledge is power and power leads to empowerment. You knowing this today might make a small change in your life. How do doctors actually detect the hidden cardiovascular risk? What tests can they do? One of the most useful tools available today is something called a coronary artery calcium score, often referred to as a CAC score. So this is actually a specialized CT scan that detects the calcium deposits in the coronary arteries. But you have to remember, calcium deposit happens as the plaques age. So if this is a new plaque, the calcium score could give you a 0, and that does not mean that you don't have plaque. So please be careful, be mindful about it. So talk to your doctor. Don't just go get a CT calcium score and say, okay, I have a 0 score. I have nothing to worry about it. Talk to your doctor. They actually put all of these risk factors into one workable thing for you, for your own personalized health. So these calcium actually build up in the arteries and they become a marker for plaque buildup. So the CAC score gives physician insight to how much plaque there already might be. So the higher the score, that means basically higher risk potential. As I said, this test can sometimes hide some of the symptoms, some risk before the symptoms ever develop. So you need to think about it. Another important test is carotid plaque screening. It's basically the carotids in your neck. Another useful screening method that involves looking into the carotid arteries. The arteries supply blood to the brain. Using an ultrasound, the doctor will actually evaluate the vessel to see if there is plaque buildup. This information can actually help identify if you are at higher risk for stroke or cardiovascular disease. So that plaque, they'll measure the vessel to see what is the plaque size like. So again, the host theory is what I mentioned earlier. The smaller the hole is, the forceful the blood's going to come out. Yeah. So you want to keep that in mind. Understanding the risk categories after evaluating all the risk factor, screening the results, patients are often categorized into 3 general risk groups. Okay. It's just to tell you where you possibly could be. So if anyone a cardiologist or provider tells you you are at low risk, that basically means you have a minimal risk and a healthy lifestyle habit for an event in the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years. But does that mean that it puts you out of a risk of not having a heart attack tomorrow? Nobody can guarantee you that, but that's what low risk means. A moderate risk means some risks are present today, and possibly for an early plaque formation situation. So these tests can actually tell you, and you might be the people or a type of patient who would actually benefit from preventative intervention. meaning that taking care of yourself, changing those risk factors, quitting smoking, changing your diet, losing weight, all of those preventative measures would actually benefit you greatly than procedure at this time. So consider that, talk to your doctor. High risk means you have so many risk factors and all the risk factors that I mentioned, and you have significant plaque buildup. You have a really high calcium score. Your carotid Doppler was horrible. It's blocked. So you might actually need a more aggressive treatment. You have to talk to your doctor to see what options they give you. And there's so many available nowadays that it could actually help you today. But this is not something that you want to ignore or you can pray it to go away on its own. You've gone past the stage where diet alone is going to help get better. So what can you do today to lower your heart age? Well, here's the encouraging news, right? Your heart age is not fixed. As you change those risk factors, these powerful steps you take today can actually improve your heart health. So move your body. Exercise is one of the most effective tools for protecting the heart. Like, I cannot emphasize enough. Even 30 minutes of walking most days of the week can make a difference. Eat heart smart. Focus on the foods that nourish your body than that would actually cause harm. Like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, healthy fats, like the last video that I just made. And try to reduce those highly processed foods and excessive sugar. Cannot stress that enough. Manage your stress. So chronic stress can affect your blood pressure and your overall health. Practices like meditation, prayer, deep breathing, and mindfulness can actually help you. Know your numbers. Everyone should be aware of their blood pressure. What is your blood pressure number? What is your cholesterol level? Where is your LDL, blood sugar level, fasting, or if you're diabetic, your HbA1c, that will tell you a lot, and your weight. These numbers provide valuable insight into your cardiovascular health. Now that we've spoken about all of these things, I cannot emphasize enough why the importance of early screening is so important. One of the most powerful things you can actually do for your heart is early screening. Because when cardiovascular disease is detected early, lifestyle changes and preventative care can significantly reduce your risk, actually potentially give you the longevity that is needed. Waiting until a symptom appears often means that the heart disease has actually progressed, and prevention may not be as helpful in this situation. So remember, prevention is always better than treatment, but do not postpone treatment because you feel like there is nothing else you can do. Now that you've listened to everything that I've said, if anything at all, I want to speak to you directly. Yes, you. If you're watching this today, consider this your reminder, your personal reminder to take care of your heart. Schedule that checkup. We are happy to do that, Trident Heart and Vascular, or any cardiologist or your primary care. Ask your doctor about your risk factor. Have the conversation, because the heart disease doesn't just affect statistics, it affects your families. If you've watched any of my other videos, you would know how it affected my family, my mom, instantly. Share this message with your communities, your church group, your mom's group, any group that you feel very connected with, because prevention only starts with awareness. And with that awareness and knowledge, there is no empowerment. I want you to think about that. Just take a few minutes to just listen to what we've spoken about. But as always, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this conversation helped you, I encourage you to share it with someone you care about, because sometimes one single conversation leads to a single screening, and that could actually be the single most life-changing thing, which leads to saving their life. This is On the Beat with Priya. Until next time, take care of your heart. Have a great day. Bye.